Hello world, I can't believe what I'm saying, but it's already been a week since the official release of Nintendo Switch 2. Time really flies. And I had Nintendo Switch Oled since the day of its release as well. So now we can finally sit and compare both of these handhelds. Is Nintendo Switch 2 better in everything than Nintendo Switch Oled? Or maybe it's reasonable to stick with Nintendo Switch Oled for now? Let's take a closer look and figure out the answer. And we're gonna start with a boot up test. So I fully turned off both of the consoles and now we're gonna see which one is going to turn on faster. Both of them did pretty good job, around 10 seconds, and I'm actually very impressed for the Nintendo Switch Oled. Now let's talk about the ergonomics, size and buttons. As you can see, Switch 2 is significantly bigger than Switch Oled. Here's how everything sits in your hands, and yeah, we can tell already that OLED is way more comfortable when it comes to the handheld use. Switch 2 on the other hand is obviously chunkier, it's bigger, the screen is bigger, the whole system is bigger. And yeah, it is a bit less comfortable, but we're gonna talk about it a bit later. So here's the back of both of these handhelds, and let's move on to the Joy-Cons attachment styles. So with the original Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch OLED, we had this slider and it was pretty good, but still it caused a lot of drifting over time. Here on the Nintendo Switch 2, we got magnets and they are pretty strong, I gotta say. At least for now. We're gonna see what's gonna happen after some time, but for now everything attaches very good, no drifting, everything seems like a whole complete system, and that is very cool. On the back of the Nintendo Switch OLED we have a stand and a micro SD slot behind this stand. So the stand itself was pretty good. It was very steady, not loose. You could control any angle you wanted. And yeah, it was very good, especially compared to the original Nintendo Switch, if you remember that thing that it came with. What about Nintendo Switch 2 stand then? And I have to say, yeah, it's probably something very similar. Something very similar in the terms of its strongness. It's not loose. You can control pretty much any angle you want. And yeah, it's very good. Here you can see the front side of Nintendo Switch OLED. We got micro SD slot, and actually this micro SD slot, now I understand that the opening of this slot was not the best, and we will see it when we will compare it to the Nintendo Switch 2. So here we got Nintendo Switch 2, and the first thing we see that changed is additional Type-C port, which is very helpful because now you can charge your device and use it on your table, like holding it with your hands, and it's actually very good. Now look at this cartridge slot. So it got different way of opening it, and it's way more comfortable and easier to do it when compared to the original Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch OLED. So now it's much better. So what about the controls then? Let's start with the sticks. I felt that they were pretty good on the Switch OLED, but now comparing them to Nintendo Switch 2, they are much smaller and they are way more comfortable on Switch 2. Honestly, you just have to feel it, the way they go, the dead zones, let's say, and everything is just way more convenient gameplay experience. Same thing with the buttons actually. Just look how small they are on the original Nintendo Switch and Switch OLED, and compare them to Switch 2. Switch 2 got a real deal buttons, feels like they are probably still not as big as on the bigger consoles, but way more comfortable. So the other buttons has not changed, but we got an additional button, which is a game chat button, as you can see it on the Nintendo Switch 2. This one is a huge one for me personally. I don't know about you guys, but for me, this was a huge pain on the original Nintendo Switch and Switch OLED. eShop. Nintendo eShop is a goddamn problem. Just look how difficult, how painful it is for the Nintendo Switch OLED to simply run Nintendo eShop. Let's go to current offers and just compare how much easier it is now to scroll through the whole eShop on Switch 2. You can see no lagging, everything loads super fast, and now just compare it to the Switch OLED. It was a damn problem. There was probably the biggest reason why I didn't want to go in and just look through the games on the original Nintendo Switch and Switch Oled. But yeah, you can see that it's very painful thing even to look at. And when we compare it to Switch 2, now this problem is completely gone, completely solved. And yeah, that was a huge thing for me. There's a lot of talks about the screen of Switch 2, that it's not OLED, that it's so bad. But let's just look at the tones, okay? Let's just look at the colors on both of the screens, the same image, the same video. Let's just take a look. And for me, I'm being honest, guys, I'm not glazing, I'm not overhyped, but for me, Switch 2 colors are way better. Of course, the black color itself is not better, and it can't be better just because how OLED works. If you know, you know. But here, all of the other colors, the whole tones are way better in my opinion. And now let's do this little test here. So I wanted to check, just because on the Nintendo Switch 2 we got a faster, way faster memory, I wanted to see if the games from original Nintendo Switch could run faster and load faster compared to the original Nintendo Switch, just through the backwards compatibility. So here the first game is Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, and actually my subscriber personally asked me to test this game, and I wanted to do that for him and for myself as well, because yeah, loads in this game was a real problem, and let's see if anything changed. This main game load is really long in this game, and yeah, it is a pain just to wait for it actually. But anyways, we can see that yeah, everything is the same. Everything is the same on both handhelds, so nothing really changed, and I'm expecting that nothing is going to be different in the game itself when we are going to start the race. So let's pick a car, start a race, and see. We're gonna see. For now, as I said, everything was absolutely the same, and we'll see if everything changed or not. And yeah, you can see that everything is exactly the same, just depends on how fast you tap on the buttons, but the loads themselves are absolutely the same, nothing changed, sadly, in Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered. The next game in our test will be Saints Row the Third, and I've already tested this game in the previous video, and I said that I really felt like it was running in 60 FPS, but I couldn't prove it. I didn't find any information on the native update. I didn't know that the FPS wasn't locked and the dynamic resolution wasn't locked in the original port. But as of some of my viewers said in the comments, it wasn't actually locked and it was running in 60 FPS, and my feelings didn't deceive me, and I was right. So it was 60 FPS, and that's a very good news for the Switch 2 users. So that is why it is especially interesting here to test the loads. As you can see, for now they are faster, but how much though? Let's see. Let's just wait for the Switch OLED to load. Yeah, that was a big deal. That was a big difference, very big difference. And the last game we're gonna test here is The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. I was pretty interested to test this game as well, just because how much I love the whole Legend of Zelda series, and I really love this game. I just started it at some time ago, but I actually never really played it through, and now on the Switch 2 I started it all over again, so hopefully I'm gonna try to stick with it and try to beat it soon. So for now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna test the loads, we're gonna test the whole thing. And I don't know if the difference is that big. We probably got like 2 seconds difference, but yeah, that's what we got. They are pretty much the same, so we can tell that actually nothing really changed natively. So wrapping it up, I want to say that Nintendo Switch 2, in my opinion, is going to be an absolute success, right? Even though Nintendo Switch OLED is really portable, is more comfortable to play in this portable way compared to Nintendo Switch 2, but still, considering the power, just the raw power of the hardware of Nintendo Switch 2, it is an absolute W, right? Because we got some stuff like ROG Ally X here, which are in a completely different price range. Like this thing costs around $800 to $1,000. It's incredibly lots of money, and this Nintendo Switch seems like it can keep up pretty good. Of course it's not gonna be better, of course it's not gonna be as powerful, but it came really close. Even now we can tell that, even though we don't have that much games. But we got something like Cyberpunk, which runs really well in 1080p on Nintendo Switch, which is awesome. And the major thing here, even though it's not a real comparison of these handhelds, I'm gonna do that later probably, but just look at the thickness of both of these devices. Just look at it. It's just completely different worlds, right? This thing is way more thinner, right? And even though I got this sort of plastic case on this one, it doesn't really add much. It adds like maybe a centimeter or something to its thickness, but not much really. So my point is, Nintendo Switch 2 is an absolutely still a portable console. It's not a PC. It's not just a piece of tech that can run games. They try to do everything well, ergonomically and everything. So yeah, I feel like Nintendo Switch 2 is better. Of course, it is better than Nintendo Switch OLED, just because we needed that update for a long time now. The latest games like The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom were not that satisfying on Nintendo Switch OLED, and that was my biggest reason why I just sort of didn't play that game. Even though I bought it on launch, I just started to play it. I saw that it's sort of blurry on Nintendo Switch OLED. It had dips under like 25-20 FPS, and I felt like, no, I don't want to ruin that sort of incredible game experience like Tears of the Kingdom to play it on and to waste it and to play it on Nintendo Switch OLED or the original Nintendo Switch. And I've waited, and I'm absolutely glad that I did that, because now on Nintendo Switch 2 it's absolutely amazing. I didn't include both of these games, actually, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, into these videos, my last videos about Nintendo Switch 2, just because I'm planning on doing just a big comparison, the separate video for those games. What would I suggest you to buy if I was suggesting to anybody to do anything? And I'm not. You decide what you want to do, so don't even listen to nobody, right? Do what you want to do. But in my just worldview, of course it makes sense to buy the original Nintendo Switch or the OLED or the Nintendo Switch Lite. It makes a lot of sense. You got a huge game library. But if you want the real up-to-date handheld and console, then of course go for Nintendo Switch 2. But the only thing is that you don't really got that much games on Nintendo Switch 2. I'm not gonna repeat most of those people who are saying that there's no games besides Mario Kart for Nintendo Switch 2. It's not true. We got some games. We got actually quite a big list of games, and for any launch of any new console, it's a very solid list of games. But it's still not that much, right? Still, most of the games that you got on sales, that you got in the store, they are ports from the original Nintendo Switch, and they don't have much updates. So probably, I feel like in a few months we're gonna have most of these games, at least like a good hundreds of games with Nintendo Switch 2 updates, and then that would be the perfect time to buy Nintendo Switch 2, right? So this was my comparison of these beautiful handhelds. Let me know which ones do you prefer in the comment section down below. Let me know, do you think if Nintendo Switch 2 now worthy of buying over Nintendo Switch OLED? And yeah, let's just have a discussion. It's always cool to chat with you guys. Yeah, so see you in the next video, hopefully very soon. If you like this video, press that like button and leave a like. Follow this channel if you want to see more videos like that. And yeah, every time you guys leave a like, comment, or subscribe to my channel, it helps it grow. It helps me very, very much, because I'm just starting and I don't have much followers, I don't have much views. But every time you do all of these activities, it helps my channel to grow, it helps me to get more attention, and it just motivates me much more. So thank you to everybody who does that, and see you in the next video very soon. Goodbye, world.